Do you want to have a skill that is marketable regardless of sector, city to city to city? You can travel wherever and not have to worry about being employable. Do you want to be paid handsomely for your efforts? Do you want to be seen as invaluable? Do you want to be like Thanos? You want to be inevitable. You want to be seen as a profit center, as a revenue center, as opposed to a cost center, ladies and gentlemen? Well, you want to learn how to sell. That is the skill. It is inevitable. It is invaluable. It is indispensable. You want to learn how to close. And if you don't understand what selling is, well, let me mention a couple of things. Number one, selling is the most highly paid, or I should say, the highest paid profession. I'll say that again, the highest paid profession out there. And if you don't understand the sphere within sales consists, okay, the sphere within which sales consists, you need to understand that sales involves everything about moving up and moving higher in your career. The president is a salesman to the country and to the outsiders. The CEO is a salesman to his organization and to the outsiders. The general is a salesman to his particular troops and also to the outside world. In other words, to move up, you need to be able to influence the people around you, and you need to be able to influence the outside world, because it is from the outside world that you get the contracts, you get the revenue, you get the trade deals, you get the concessions, you get the value. You get people's bank accounts to open up and for things to come in. So whether it's a nonprofit organization or a for-profit organization, a governmental organization or a non-governmental organization, whatever it may be, those whom bring value in, those whom bring revenue in, those whom are profit centers are indispensable and invaluable. Okay? My name is Ike. Welcome to this channel. And this is the channel where we talk about being better and doing better with a strong emphasis on doing. That means getting things done. And what are we getting done today? Today we are closing, ladies and gentlemen. We are learning how to close. And it is a recurring theme in this channel, that thing being selling. And today we have a special guest. We have a special guest, Aitois, aka Nuugame. This is not the first time he's been on this channel. Go back and watch the other two interviews that pertain to sales. We've done at least 4 of these. Maybe this might be the 5th one or so. But the last time we talked about understanding the customer, okay? The 5 buying stages, the identification of the problem, the shopping, the decision, the purchase, and then the post-purchase behavior. Sure. Prior to that, we also talked about selling being about breaking down walls, bringing down barriers, and so on and so forth. So Aitois is the president of American Heritage University, okay, and the head of admissions for the law school, amongst other things, okay, ladies and gentlemen. Again, he's no stranger to the
Yeah, well, the closing process is often the most nerve-wracking process for me and most salespeople alike, because that's where um, all of the charisma that you've displayed throughout the process, all of the lies you've told, if you want to call it that, everything that you've said. Yeah, I say lies because a lot of times in sales we have to amplify the truth a little bit and minimize the errors. This is where you're saying, I'm about to get this person to sign or this contract or give me this amount of money. So it's often the part that gets a little tricky, but it's the most important part, because this is where you get the bacon. This is where you, like you said at the introduction, this is where the bank account opens up and the money comes over to you, right? So, as far as it being a barrier, this is the part where you have to be extremely attentive to the little details, and you have to be extremely focused on being clear, because the closing is if there was anything that you weren't clear about, this is where you're going to be clear about it. Take an example of if you go back and watch our previous segments, we have the gentleman that wanted to upgrade his phone and eventually got upsold to something else. This is the part that you have to disclose. Okay, well, you're getting this phone, the other one's free. You still have to pay the taxes on both of them. Why? Because you got to pay tax. You got to give Uncle Sam his cut, right? So this is the part where you're saying, hey, this is the early termination. If you choose to change your mind, these are the penalties you're going to incur. These are the fees if you return it early. So this is the part where you're disclosing a lot of information that is not the fun stuff. The sexy stuff, we've already done that. This is the part that, hey, this is a 2-year commitment. This is an early termination of $400. These are taxes. Even though it's a free phone, you're paying $80 in taxes. This is where, you're using up an opportunity, obviously, to upsell, right? But going through those disclosures, those are areas that it never feels old. So every time you're closing, you're like, I got to tell them it's 2 years. I can't hide that, right? So this is where all of your charisma becomes more of honesty and communications and transparency. And it requires a little bit of practice, because this is the make or break version of the sale. This is where all your hard work is about to pay off. So specifically, it is a barrier that you have to get over yourself. You're the biggest barrier at this point, because you've already done a good job. They started from folding their hands to putting their hands down. They were leaning back. Now they're leaning forward. Their hands are on the table. They're all in. So now this is where you reel in the fish. And it's one of the most, it's the part of the sale that requires a little bit more in-depth approach. But at the
Mm,
same time, our job here is to keep it simple. Whew. There's a logical aspect of it, and there's an emotional aspect of it. Let me give you an example. Going back to my experience, I had an old lady that she wanted to get a phone. She had a very old phone, and her phone volume stopped working. And she says, "Well, I have insurance, and the insurance charges a $50 deductible, and they're going to send an old phone. And the phone that she had, they don't make it anymore." So I was able to sell her into the upgrade. And a part of me emotionally felt guilty, because this lady wanted something really easy, even though I
mm,
sold her a phone that was, in my opinion, easy. In my setup for her, I made it easy. A part of me felt guilty knowing that she's going to have a hard time making this adjustment. So
mm,
logically, you have to close the sale, because here comes the big bucks. I mean, it's only logical. But I'm about to get this lady into this phone, and I know she's gonna have a hard time. The human part of you kind of kicks in, and you start feeling guilty. Do I really want to do this? Did I really make the best decision? But again, this is where we talked about the 5 stages of buying, and this is where the lady comes back and is having second thoughts. So I'm
mhm,
I'm kind of having the post sale aspect of it, and she's having the post purchase aspect of it. So this is where our worlds meet. So she comes back, and then I have to now go back into being the affirmer, the assurer, the nurturer, and say, "Let's have a seat, Miss Old Lady." And I sit down and I show her how to use the product. That's not always a rule, because some customers, you sell to them, you never see them again, or you only
mhm,
hear from them when it's through a referral. But you'll have those. They'll come back, and then I show her, and then she leaves, and she's confident. And then at that time, I start feeling better about my decision. So it's a little bit of both. Now, there are some sales that I'm in there. There's no emotions. There's I would like to buy this phone. I've come here to buy this phone because I've been waiting for it. And that's common with iPhone customers, by the way. They come in, and matter of fact, you can have a bad attitude on purpose, and they'll buy the phone.
Yeah, I hear that about the Genius Bar, that sometimes it's not always the best customer service, and perhaps that's on purpose. Probably it works
Yep.
better.
It's all about the pushing them over the edge, the giving them confidence, boosting how they're feeling, because um customers who feel good are going to buy. If your customer is feeling good about himself, he's feeling good about you, he's bound to make a purchase, and he's bound to make a referral, because that emotional sting will last a long time. They
Mm,
say if you have one angry customer, they'll piss off 10 other angry customers, because your emotions are poisonous, right? If you have a bad experience, you're going to say something poisonous about your experience. So a lot of it is really, the emotional boost and making them feel good. And when they feel good, they like you, and everything you say after that, they're sold. You could say, you know what, and even at that, I'll give you an example. I had a lady that, I went through the whole, her emotions were high, she's feeling good about herself, and I was going to sell her the phone, and I thought it was buy one get one free. And when they came down time to ring it up at the register, it wasn't buy one get one free. So I went to my manager. I said, "Look, I've already told her about." Nope. Manager says, "We're not budging. We have this other phone is buy one get one free." So I went back out to the sales floor, and I put my eyes down really low. I said, you know what? I got some good news, but which you want, the good news or the bad news first? She says, tell me the bad news first. I'm like, the phones that you wanted to get, there is no buy one get one free. But to be honest, this other ones that are buy one get one free, they're actually better. She goes, oh, I trust you. I'm thinking, whew, right? Because I put her in a good mood. So at that point, I can said, you know what? Don't buy the phones today. Come back next week. She'll leave, right? And I'll buy them.
Mm.
So I was able to get her to buy the other phones, and boy, was that a good decision. Not only did she take the what we call the BOGO, buy one get one free, she brought someone else that said, hey, there's a phone that you like, you've always liked that phone, right now he gave it to me, buy one get one free. So that automatically brought me more customers. So when you put your customer in a good mood, it sets you up and sets them up even when things don't go your way. So if they're feeling good and it just so happens that maybe the product is out of stock, or the last one they were going to buy was out, or there were some bugs in the program, or there was a missing PowerPoint slide somewhere, because they were in a good mood. Because the emotional mind is it's a very powerful zone to operate with anyone. Having them in that emotional state of mind, in the right emotional state of mind for your opportunity to sell or close the sale, you can use that to your advantage any way you want to.
Excellent. So we talked about barriers before, taking down barriers, and you talk about taking down the internal barrier of yourself, and then you're talking about making the customer excited that
Right,
it is mainly about, and it really doesn't matter. Well, there are more complex sales than others, right?
right,
There
of
is
course.
a B2C customer, the business to customer sale. Then there's the B2B sale, business to business sale, and then there's certain kinds of sale where you're doing like a whole enterprise software sale. It involves the person who is signing the check. It involves an end user who's using the software. It involves all kinds of intermediaries and so on and so forth. Okay.
Right.
So it can be quite complex, but regardless of which particular stage you're in, and this is something that I think is key to understand, you may be in the stage where you're simply trying to get the secretary, the administrative assistant, the receptionist to get you a phone number.
That's
Okay.
right. That's right.
That is a sale. And then, no matter what, and no matter the kinds of the logical aspects, where you need to know the process. Okay. You need to understand that just by talking to the end user and by having a champion within the company doesn't mean that the purse strings are going to open, right?
Right.
But you need to, each stage is still an emotional thing that needs to be done. So
It does. It does. And now I used I think I appreciate the additional insight you gave as far as B2B and different types of sales. And I start often at the consumer level, because that's where you gain some of your first selling experience, at least for
mhm,
most people. But let me climb up to where I'm operating now at my level. And I'll give you an example of the sale that I'm actually working on right now.
mhm,
We are working on creating a certificate program to assist third world country instructors, and train them on how to be efficient in teaching online. Of course, the pandemic has created really this whole new opportunity for instructors to leave the classroom environment into the online environment. So there is a head person, and I've been selling to him the idea of, hey, get me 20, 30 of your instructors, and I'll train them in my school. We'll give them a certificate of completion, showing that they understand curriculum development in the online world. They understand how to interact in a virtual world, how to utilize the resources provided in the virtual world. And what I my first way of getting that emotional excitement going on, I actually had a 4-hour seminar today. I didn't charge him anything. I said, listen, bring
mhm.
your best. And I did a 4-hour seminar, and I gave them golden nuggets, but I didn't give them any, golden nugget openers, if that makes any sense. The nuggets was put in
Mm.
their hand, but how to use that nugget, that's going to be when you bring some dollars, because dollars make sense, right? So
Mm.
I got him so excited, and I gave my contact information, and all the instructors are hitting me up on my email. That was great. I want to know more. So the excitement is there. So now the excitement is there. I'm like this. Okay, so what you got for me, right? So, but bottom line is, I think your question specifically was how you do that, by offering something that you know that it's not going to cost you anything. Okay.
Mm,
And sometimes that could be your time, but rather than looking at your time, oh, you're going to pay me for this time, you know, you have to appear extremely patient, ready to listen, and your communication skills have to be on point. So he would send me a message, I would respond right away. He would say, "Oh, sorry about that." I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's no problem." So as far as he's concerned, I never seem to have a problem. I'm always ready to respond.
mm,
When he speaks, I said that's it. When he asks a question, no matter how minute the question is, I call it a great question, right? And
mm,
that's a way of putting all these positive vibes in the car. Well, that's a fantastic question. In reality,
mm.
if one of my staff asked me that question, I wouldn't even answer it, right? Because I'm like, have you heard of Google, right? You know? So so part of it is just saying, oh, everything is a great question, and to some degree, they are great questions, especially coming from me being the expert in what he needs me for, and him being the potential customer. So I'm the expert, but he's asking great questions that are great because they give me an opportunity to establish that positive relationship. So how to do it is to acknowledge the potential. Now, were you asking that question from a buyer's perspective or a seller's perspective?
Um, I'm asking how you transfer that emotion over, and you said that you need to give.
Right,
Okay, you need to kind of acknowledge. First, you also mentioned that you need to appear competent and responsive, right? You
right,
immediately answer the questions and so on and so forth. You'd be surprised how much people will just give you,
right,
right? If
right,
you have established in the past that you are responsive, they have a question, they have a burning need, they're in the middle of the freeway, they're driving to the job site, they have a question, they pick up the phone, and you are that guy that answers.
right,
They don't want to have to go test out the field to find some other guy that possibly answers,
right,
right? When the time comes with that $50,000 contract, they're going to pick up and they're going to call you, right? So, yes, I was asking from the seller's perspective how you transfer that emotion over. And I think that you did a pretty good job with answering that. And there's
okay,
something else that's on the chat right now. And shout out to Sandman, shout out to Young Swift in the house. Young Swift talks about finessing, and this one I'll address, okay?
okay,
Uh, with the finessing aspect, which is, you're BSing, you're lying. And this is why the previous question was about, is it an emotional thing or a logical thing? If you're telling somebody 2 plus 2 is 5, you're lying, okay? If you say that's a great question, that is very different. You know what I mean? That
right,
is very different. So the whole I people feel like, oh well, you saying, oh, it's a great question, when otherwise, if somebody that did not have a potential a that you're trying to get into, you would not say it was a gret question. People will say, oh well, isn't that finessing and so on and so forth. Look, there is an understanding. In other words, the other human being across the room from you understands that that's not how you talk to your kids at home. They understand that that's not how you talk to your secretary. It is
right,
understood. In other words, I like to use the Trump from time to time. When Trump says, hey, it's amazing, everybody knows it, you're all wonderful. If I tell you, hey, young Swift, you come into young Swift is coming into the cocktail party. I'm like, hey, young Swift, you are an amazing young man. You are awesome. This is great. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows young Swift is great, right? Hey, this is not how I am every day, all day, but
right,
still you appreciate the effort. We
right,
understand it's social organisms. We know that it is an emotional boost that needs to happen, and it's not a question of 2 plus 2 = 4. And Young Swift says, "Ah, I see. Yes, yes, yes. It is an emotional thing. It is called, I forget the word now. Let's just call it boosterism or something like that. And it is understood that somebody is going to be doing that, and it's not a question of 2 plus 2 = 4."
the den of iniquity. Vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment. What a pity, tomorrow never certain. What dwells behind the curtain? The face of evil smirking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble that either pop or topple. Many will fall and stumble. Let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannons could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising and hearts are compromising, convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest and the righteous in your corners.